In December of 2005, I took my son on a fishing trip into Eagle Creek in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We come in to the campsite here on Eagle Creek, the first campsite, and there's someone in our campsite here next to the lake. We just came, Tim struck up a conversation. I said, I know you want to finish your hike, but we have a boat if you want to come with us. This man said, yes, I want to come. I was really hoping you would have turned my invitation down. Got in the boat, went back to the marina. I went in to turn in my gear, said goodbye, never saw him again.
A confessed serial killer who pleaded guilty to killing 2 hikers.
2010, I'm watching television and I'm sitting there watching it, and I remember I was sitting on the couch and the picture of this guy pops up on the screen, and I went, wow. Hey y'all, we're here at Fontana Village, about to go out on Miss Hazel with Carl Sutter. We're going to talk a little bit about Eagle Creek and show you exactly where the encounter happened. So come along with us and see the beauty of Lake Fontana.
In 2001, Donna Pierce, who is now in charge of our front desk, was working at the registration desk in the old hospital, a one-story building that approaches the village. And she was all by herself that day. The front door opens and in walks a Middle Eastern man. And this guy, she said, scared me more than anybody I've ever met in my life. She said he was abrupt and rude. He had black eyes, but just the way he carried himself really frightened her, and she registered thousands of people here in the village. He wanted to stay one night, and typically when guests come, they have questions about the village. All this guy wanted to know about was the dam. He said, how many people work there? And she said, 5. How many security people? At that time, there was just 2. But then he had more questions, and she just stopped answering, and he left. And she went back and told the manager in an office way behind her about this guy, and she said, for the next 2 nights, I had nightmares thinking about him. She said 4 months later, I learned that the day before he came to the village to register, he'd rented a single-engine plane in Coppertown, Tennessee, and he flew up here, sitting behind the pilot. They came down the lake, circled the dam. He took hundreds of pictures of the dam. 9/11. 9:42 a.m., remember, they shut down all the airports, ordered the planes to land. The terrorists had already hit the Twin Towers, the Pentagon. Flight 93 was still up in the air. That afternoon, they had security people search large planes and airports across the country. At Atlanta International Airport, they find box cutters and knives hidden behind 2 seats in a plane scheduled to leave at 10:30 that morning for California. Next day, they start showing pictures of the 9/11 terrorists. I was watching, Donna was watching, most of the country was watching. She saw a couple pictures, and then she said, oh my God, there he is, Mohammed Atta. If you'll remember, Mohammed Atta planned all of the attacks, flew one of the first 2 planes into the Twin Towers. He's the guy that directed everything. So why didn't they take a plane at 7:30 in the morning like the others? Well, if you look at the dam, there's a ridge that faces the dam. And in September, because of difference in water and air temp, 9 out of 10 days, clouds form over this ridge. And those clouds don't start to dissipate until about 10:30. But a plane coming out of Atlanta would get here about 10 minutes of 11, and they would have visibility for this ridge because the plane's got to come over the ridge and then dive for the face of the dam. So that's why they didn't take a plane earlier in the day.
Eagle Creek, here we come. It's where it happened. A lot of times you'll come out here and there's nobody else out here, and you'll watch that boat leave and you know you're by yourself. It's a good feeling. It's exciting. You know, it's you against your own self, basically. So this is the spot where I believe with 95% certainty that I encountered Gary Michael Hilton, the so-called serial killer responsible about 4 deaths, probably more, in western North Carolina, Florida, and Georgia. I believe I encountered him putting his campsite together right here. And it's a day, it was 18 years ago, but just the feeling of that encounter has stayed with me for all those years. And I did not know that a lady had disappeared in Bryson City around the time that I had my encounter with this man. I feel guilty not coming forward sooner, but I had no idea that there was still a missing lady here. But I'm going to try to do everything I can to help put an end to this investigation, if I can. Looks like, to me, the fish that are holding in this faster water are a little more energetic. Oh my gosh. See, when they're schooling like that, that's how they were over on that side. They haven't gotten out of their stock mentality yet, so they travel around in a group like that. And then they start branching off and going up the creek and stuff and get caught out. I'm standing with Eugene Schuler. He is the owner and operator of Fly Fishing the Smokies, one of the oldest, if not the oldest.
My grandfather started guiding in 1946 when he come home from World War II. And my dad guided part-time. My grandpa did it full-time until he passed away.
He's right here in Bryson City, North Carolina. We're standing on Deep Creek, and this is Tom's Branch Falls. If you've ever seen a photo of Deep Creek, a lot of them will have this falls in the background. It's beautiful. And from what Eugene's telling me, this section right through here, if you know how to do it,
That's right.
is loaded with fish. Eugene and I have been talking, and I was telling him a story about my experience with the National Park serial killer. Believe it or not, he's had an experience along the same lines, and the similarities of our experience with this fella is striking. Can you tell us a little bit how it started?
So I was guiding summer of 2005, I was guiding a lady and her 2 teenage kids. So I took them to the Jenkins Fields. It's about 1.5 miles up from here. Jenkins Fields is kind of where Deep Creek and Indian Creek is after the split, and there's a loop trail that cuts back in between the two. It's kind of like a nice little hike back there, but that section's, it's out of the way, it's kind of private, it's got some good fishing on it, but it lays pretty flat, so it's easy to get teenagers and a lady up through there without, a lot of treacherous wading or anything like that. So we're up in there fishing, having a pretty good day. We're getting towards about halfway of our day. We're doing a full day, so about halfway up. We're sitting there, and I start getting this feeling somebody's watching me, just kind of this weird gut, kind of, if you ever get around, you're like, there's somebody behind me kind of thing. We go on up a little bit, keep fishing, fish on around the little bit of the curve up through there, start getting up towards the bridge where you can come back out and that loop trail comes out where you can actually see the other side. We get up there and I notice a fella standing there over in the bramble watching. So he was standing kind of back in the bramble, so it wasn't like ducked down hiding, he was just standing back in things, she didn't really notice him. Kind of odd at first. I was like, all right, it's an older fella, looked like he's by himself. We get people watching. I mean, we're in Deep Creek. I mean, you get people utilizing the creeks and things up here all the time. And so you get people in the audience watching. So, well, in a few minutes, he rolls his pants legs up, didn't take his shoes off, but rolls his pants legs up, wades across the creek over to us. And I thought, that's a little odd. And when he gets closer, you can really see that look in those eyes. And I thought, all right, I'm not liking this guy. So he comes over to us, he starts talking to us, and seems friendly and harmless enough at first, sort of just that creepy thing. But the guy, the whole time I'm talking to him, he keeps doing this, Joe. He keeps trying to get around behind me.
Yeah.
And as he's talking, he just kind of meanders around. And I'm like, I already got these creeper flags going on here. I'm not letting this guy get behind me, so I'm turning. It's like two boxers facing off in a ring trying to get an angle. And that's kind of the way I started feeling about it. And I thought, this is kind of weird. So he keeps talking. He talked to the lady and the kids, and I'm still trying to work with him. He's asking all kind of questions. I was like, buddy, we're on a guided trip. I was trying to be as polite as I could. I said, look, we're happy to teach you. I've got a shop here. We're in a guide service. I said, we're more than happy to take you fly fishing and show you how. But, I've got to spend the time with these guys here. They paid for my time today. So if you don't mind, I'm going to help these guys. And, you have a good day. It's like, I'll just hang around and watch. And I thought, oh, man, come on. Just go. So he just keeps lingering around, still talking. You try to talk to those kids. You try to get in between me and the mom or those kids, or still trying to get behind me at times. It's just like you're posturing the whole time. So it's kind of creeped out. And I was like, look, I think we load up, move, and go somewhere else, get away from this guy. She's like, yeah, he's kind of creeping me out. I was like, can we use my keys? I said, y'all go ahead and get my vehicle. I said, wait on me. I said, I'll grab our gear. I said, y'all take off. Let's start gathering up their stuff. And a couple little bags that they had some of their little backpack things they had. And I picked those up in the rods. And I said, well, friend, we're out of here. We have a good day. Well, where are you headed? I said, man, I'm not sure. Somewhere we can, be by ourselves, and do some fishing and stuff where we, kind of focus on
kind of like a subtle hint.
It was trying that southern manners of, hey, I'm giving you the version of bless your heart, but get the heck out of here.
Appalachian parental.
That's it. Yeah, definitely, 100%. And he wouldn't take the hint. He was like, well, I'll just go tag along with you. And I was like, look, buddy, that's, I've tried to be nice to you and let you know we want to be by ourselves, left alone, I don't mean anything by it, but how about you just going about your business? We're going about ours. Well, he literally squares off to me and he goes, how about I don't? And I mean, every flag.
Just like that.
Just like that. Just like that.
And
he was about you and I's distance. He was like, how about I don't? And of course I was on guard then. I'm in my late 20s at that point. I'm still a kid by some people's standards. Some not. It depends on the way you look at it. But
and I tell you, that hair on my arm.
Man, mine does. And I even start recanting this stuff, because not knowing then who this guy was, but later on, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. But hey, when he did that, how about I don't? I was like, look, buddy, I'm not looking for trouble out here. We're just wanting to be by ourselves, do some fishing, and go on our own thing, man. You're going about yours. He said, I'm not going anywhere. He said, I'll go wherever you do. I said, you can get back across through yonder. I said, you ain't getting nowhere near them. I said, I know that's what you do. And he was like, I ain't going nowhere. I said, get across there. So we kind of, voices got louder, and we kind of did some arguing, some cussing back and forth a little bit. He starts laughing at me, and I was like, laugh all you want, buddy, you're getting out of here. And I'm trying to back up a little bit from him at that point, and he'd just keep closing. And when I'd back up, he'd scoot. He kept that same distance right there. And I thought, man, this is way out of hand further than I've ever wanted something to be.
It didn't have,
No, there was no precursor to doing something to cause this guy this. I thought, man, this guy's a nut job and I'm in danger bad. And I didn't have anything with me, but I thought, man, there's enough creek rocks laying around here and I'm young enough, surely I can whack him with one of these and get out here and run. So finally, I was yelling at him at that point, get pretty loud. And I'm sure if there was anybody walking by, it would have attracted some attention apparently, because we weren't that far off the gravel road there. So he was like, you know what? He said, I'm gonna let you walk away. He said, you don't know how lucky you are. He said, you really don't know.
Here at Fly Fishing the Smoky Shop in Bryson City with Eugene Schuler. He always has some great fly selections, some great stuff, and he's a wealth of knowledge, not only for fishing in the Smokies, but for just the history. His family goes back many generations around this area. And he's a wealth of knowledge for, if you want to know more about the Great Smoky Mountain, this is it. Sometimes you wouldn't believe what our trout actually eat. For example, let's check this out. Here's a little, you probably can't even see it, the golden child. Look how big these things are. Those new to fly fishing would never think that you catch fish on that, but you do. You do. Depends on the stream and the conditions and what they're eating. Here's some of the woolly boogers we use. This is a muddler minnow. You can tell the difference in the sizes there. Different colors of boogers. Here you go. The joke is orange and yellow flies is what Matt was talking about. So you can see he's got a big selection. Come here, the orange is kicking in. He knows what he's doing. See how the orange is about to come in? These will disappear like the yellows have.
So finally, I was yelling at him at that point. I was like, "Mister, shut up, get out of here." And as he starts, I was like, "I'm not giving you my back." I said, "You get back across that creek." I said, "I ain't turning my back on you." I said, "You go back across that creek where you come from."
Yeah, you didn't want him in your...
No, heck no. And so he backed up, he went out in the creek, and he starts standing in the middle of the creek just dying laughing. Just absolutely laughing like it's the funniest thing he ever saw. And I thought, what is wrong with this guy? So I chopped that back in my head for quite some time. And this is the summer of '05. Well, at the time, we didn't know there was a guy loose in the mountains roaming around killing people. I didn't find out for, I guess it was 2 years later or so.
When was the time? When was the time you realized that you had come in contact, most likely, with the guy responsible for murder?
When they arrested him for killing that Meredith, that young lady named Meredith, that it was on the news. They had arrested this guy for, there was a missing girl. You'd hear about missing hikers and things in the park, like a John and Irene older couple from, I think, Brevard area, somewhere over in Pisgah.
Yeah.
They had been missing. Then you heard about a missing girl from Bryson City, or had been through here from Bryson City. That was in like the winter of 2005.
Yeah.
And I didn't connect that might have been that creepy guy. I didn't think about that one, at that point. Then that John and Irene lady that got to missing, didn't connect this guy to that. Yeah. But later on, as he got that girl out in Georgia, I think it was North Georgia or something, or South Carolina somewhere, but her name was Meredith. I remember that. But they were on the news about this with this guy. And I was washing dishes in the kitchen. I'll never forget, the hair on my head stood up. That's when I realized, oh my God, I could have been one of them.
Down on the Green River today. I just thought we'd come down, have a little fun, try to catch some other fish. Maybe a little bigger than normal than what you typically catch in the blue lines I like to fish on. Hopefully my setup is right, but we'll make do. We'll make do. I think there's an opportunity to catch large fish in here, so let's go see what we can do. We might go swimming today. I'm going to add another little bit of leader to it, get it down a little deeper. I think these fish are holding right on the bottom, and I got to get down to them. The one bite I got down there was right on the bottom. I got a bite right there. Now is when I need my net, right? With this murky water that we got here, we're having to coax these fish into biting. They got to, when they see it, they'll come to it. So with the nymphs that we've got to get it right in front of them, or have something big and meaty that they feel comfortable enough in going after. There we go. All right, dude, this is like one of those special fish. Let's go ahead and get him out right quick and get him up here on the bank. All right. What I gotta do is get this hook out of him right quick and get him back in there. All right. You guys ready? All right, this is what you can catch in the hatchery-supported waters in the western North Carolina. Let's get them down here in the
Co-wife was like, that's the guy from Deep Creek. I know it is. I know it is. She was like, you're crazy. And I said, no, I'm not. That's the dude from Deep Creek. So I took off, went in there in the living room, rewound back, looked at that, and I was like, that's him. That's the guy, 100%. That's the guy. That's those eyes. That's that face. That's that man.
If you were to go back and my own personal opinion with my experience, and it sounds exactly the same way.
Right.
This fella was searching.
He was hunting.
He was hunting.
He is hunting.
He was looking for someone that he could take advantage of.
Right. He was. Right? He was.
And he came up to you, and you, the way you behaved and the way you presented yourself, it made him go, this isn't the time.
Yeah, man, that's just creepy. I mean, it's so creepy.
The similarities between his story and mine are kind of unnerving. You've heard my story. But to be honest with you, uncovering new information during an ongoing investigation is quite difficult. We've talked to many different people, but those many different people don't want to talk on camera.
After the cameras stopped rolling, the investigation took an unexpected turn, and we believe we may have uncovered some clues in the story Gary Michael Hilton first told Joe all those years ago. Follow along our investigation as we unravel the details and dive deeper into this mystery in Season 2.